We will now get to the main event. Call to order the Village of Riverside Board of Trustees regular meeting for Thursday, November 5th, 2020. The time is 7:15. Please call the roll.
Trustee Collins.
Here.
Trustee Evans.
Here.
Trustee Gallegos.
Here.
Trustee Hannan.
Here.
Trustee Gisa.
Here.
Trustee Pollock.
Here.
President Sells.
Here.
Village Attorney Lance Molina.
Here.
Also present, Village Manager / Deputy Clerk Jessica Francis.
Seeing that we have no flag to stand before, we'll just move on past the Pledge of Allegiance for this evening and move on to presentations and public comment. Do we have any presentations or public comment? Manager Francis or Mr. Molina?
No, we do not have anyone here, and I think now might be a good time for me to lay the predicate for this meeting. So we are here remotely, and we are in a situation where we have to meet certain requirements. There is the governor's order dealing with public health concerns and has restrictions in it which make meeting publicly more difficult, and President Sells has made a determination that it is neither prudent nor practical to conduct our meeting in person given those limitations. Also, we need to make sure that going into this meeting, everyone can hear clearly and are able to follow along appropriately given their electronic connections. So we'll go down the list again. We've just had 2 public hearings and now we're in the regular village board meeting. Trustee Collins.
Yes, I can hear.
Trustee Evans.
I can hear.
Trustee Gallegos.
Yes, I can hear everything.
Trustee Hannan.
Yes, I can hear you.
Trustee Gisa.
Yes.
Trustee Pollock.
Yes.
And President Sells.
Yes, and I'm glad we have you, Mr. Molina, to keep us tidy tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to be here. So I'll turn it back over to President Sells, who can lead us through the regular meeting.
Thank you. First up this evening is the President's report. The only thing that I would like to highlight tonight is the seriousness of the resurgence of the COVID-19 pandemic. This past week, we had an increase, or last week we had 25 reported cases in our village, the highest number we've had to date. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen a 147% increase in COVID cases in our village. The data suggests that these transmissions are being driven largely in private homes and private settings, which means it's up to us and our own interactions with our friends and family to do whatever we can to start to reverse this trend. And we all know at this point what to do, the 3 W's. You need to wear a mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. If we don't do this, no one else will. And as I spoke in a conference call with the Governor Pritzker yesterday, and it's very clear that there is not going to be any easing of the restaurant closures or restaurant restrictions until these case numbers turn around and start to come down. So if we want to support our local businesses, especially our local restaurants, there are 2 things we can do. We can take advantage of their carry-out and outdoor dining capacity. But more importantly, we can do everything we can to be strident in our efforts to reverse the trend of these COVID outbreaks. And that means we're going to have to go back and take our minds back to March and April when we were all hunkered down and we were aware that even our friends and our families are at risk. So I just ask everyone to redouble their efforts and let's get this pandemic under control back here in Riverside. That's all I have, Manager Francis.
I have one item this evening. I wanted to acknowledge staff for all of their efforts, especially Director Johns for submitting in total. The Village of Riverside has submitted 26 different grant-related reimbursements for COVID-19 related costs. That is not to say that we will get 100% of what we have submitted for. In that 26, 2 of them was actually on behalf of our Consolidated Dispatch Center, West Central Consolidated Communication Center. That Director Johns has definitely taken the lead, coordinated with different departments, made sure the information was appropriate, and then submitted it on whether it was FEMA, Cook County, or also our risk management pool has also offered a couple of different grants. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the efforts that staff has made in addition to just managing the day-to-day, in addition to just managing the pandemic and staff members during this difficult time.
Thank you, Manager Francis. I second that. We have a wonderful staff and they've been doing a lot of extra work during this difficult time, and we all really do appreciate it. We'll move on now to the approval of the consent agenda. On the agenda this evening is to approve the voucher list of bills of November 5th, 2020, approve the Village Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes of October 1, 2020, review and file the Landscape Advisory Commission regular meeting minutes of September 8, 2020, the Forest and Fire Tax Board meeting minutes of October 12, 2020, and the Community Development and Finance Department September 2020 monthly reports. A resolution authorizing the submittal of a grant application for Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program funds for the East Quincy Street, Riverside Road Streetscape Project. A resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a supplemental statement of work contract and issue a purchase order to municipal GIS partners for an amount not to exceed $41,677 for 2021 Geographic Information System services. And lastly, a resolution authorizing the sale or disposal of personal property owned by the Village of Riverside. I'd ask for a motion and a second to.
I will make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Gallegos.
Second.
Ms. Collins, please call the roll.
Trustee Collins,
Aye.
Trustee Evans,
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos,
Aye.
Trustee Hannan,
Aye.
Trustee Gisa,
Aye.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on now to reports of departments, commissions, and trustee liaisons. It's unfortunate we can't do the next thing in person, but we can't. So we're going to be doing it remotely. And I'm going to turn it over to Director Tab, who has an introduction to make.
Good evening, President Sells and Board of Trustees. On behalf of the Riverside Public Works Department, I would like to introduce to you Joe Coons. He is the new superintendent. Joe comes to us from Willowbrook. He's been there for 2 years as the superintendent in the position over there. And prior to that, he was in Clarendon Hills for 18 years in the water department. Joe brings a lot of knowledge to the Village of Riverside and is going to be a great asset. So we're going to try to do this very carefully. This is our official introduction. If anyone happens to see him in the village facility, please take the time to introduce yourself. That is all I have regarding that. Thank you.
You have a future in cinema, Mr. Tab. I will move on now to ordinances and resolutions. First up is an ordinance approving continued temporary use of the village right-of-way and other public and private spaces for outdoor dining and other authorized purposes, and approving certain temporary signage and off-season outdoor dining. Director Apt.
Thank you, President Sells. As you know, back in May, we adopted an ordinance that allowed the village manager to approve additional use of our right-of-way, parking spaces, sidewalks, road closures, et cetera, to allow for outdoor dining, additional retail, be able to create curbside parking spaces, things like that, as well as additional signage for our businesses as we entered into phase 3 of the Restore Illinois plan. On October 26th, the governor announced that Region 10 had surpassed the average positivity rate threshold, and therefore we've entered into Tier 1 enhanced mitigations that went into effect on the 28th of October. Due to that, and in an effort to continue supporting our local business community, we recommend that this temporary use ordinance be extended. The ordinance drafted by the village attorney extends the previous ordinance, allowing the temporary uses of our village right-of-way and other public and private spaces through April 30th of 2021. The ordinance also waives the current requirement that we have regarding outdoor dining that requires all tables, chairs, and other appurtenances to be removed from the outdoor seating areas during the months of December through March. This waiver will help support our business community through the Tier 1 mitigation as well as the winter months as we continue in phase 4 of the Restore Illinois plan. The extension of this ordinance allows the previously authorized temporary uses to continue through April 30th and authorizes the village manager to approve any new temporary closures of the village right-of-way for the placement of tables and tents and other dining retail infrastructure for the purposes of facilitating consumption by members of the public for food, drink, including alcoholic liquor, and for the purposes related to furthering the economic recovery of our village businesses.
Thank you very much. So I'd ask for a motion and a second to approve an ordinance approving continued temporary use of the village right-of-way and other public and private spaces for outdoor dining and other authorized purposes, and approving certain temporary signage and off-season outdoor dining.
I will make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Gallegos, second by,
Second.
was that you, Ms. Collins?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Collins,
Aye.
Trustee Evans,
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos,
Aye.
Trustee Hannan,
Aye.
Trustee Gisa,
Aye.
Trustee Pollock,
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is a resolution approving and adopting the Village of Riverside's Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan for 2020. Director Apt, back at you.
Yes, thank you. The ADA applies to state and local government entities and mandates that we have an ADA transition plan, which documents any physical barriers to accessibility and proposes modifications to remove those barriers and a schedule to complete those modifications. Our Public Works Department has compiled an inventory, and based on this inventory has created an ADA transition plan in accordance with the Act. So it also designates the Public Works Director as our ADA coordinator. And it is going to provide us with a method for the village to schedule and implement ADA requirement improvements to our existing streets and sidewalks.
Thank you, Director. I'd ask for a motion and a second to approve a resolution approving and adopting the Village of Riverside's Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan for 2020.
I'll make that motion.
By Mr. Gallegos, second by
Second.
Mr. Pollock. Questions or comments? Please call the roll. Mr. Hannan.
Just for clarification, there's a $2 million projected budget for this. Did we have anything in the upcoming budget, or what is the timetable for the implementation?
So there's not currently anything in the upcoming budget. Typically, these are redone as roadways are resurfaced. So they incorporate the transitions as part of the resurfacing or reconstruction of a roadway. If they happen to align with a block where sidewalk is replaced, we will address those, but typically it is a roadway project.
Great, thank you for that clarification. It was helpful.
Other questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Trustee Collins,
Aye.
Trustee Evans,
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos,
Aye.
Trustee Hannan,
Aye.
Trustee Gisa,
Aye.
Trustee Pollock,
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is a resolution authorizing the village manager to create a purchase order in the amount of $38,750 for Christopher B. Burke Engineering to provide professional engineering services as part of the Swan Pond Walking Path Reconstruction Project. Director Tab.
Thank you. In 2019, the state of Illinois Capitol Bill appropriated $350,000 for the Village of Riverside as part of a DCO grant. And back this year in September 3rd, the village board was presented and discussed the inclusion of the Swan Pond Walking Path as part of the 2021 budget. Subsequent, we were awarded a $50,000 grant by Invest in Cook. And we, as part of reappropriation of the 2019 capital bill, were awarded $50,000 for capital improvements and $40,000 for infrastructure improvements. We are currently awaiting approval from the state on those. So the language currently associated with the DCO grant is for a permeable walking path to be located in Swan Pond. After review by staff, the village's engineer, and under direction from the board, it has been determined that a non-permeable walking path will be better suited for Swan Pond. The village has submitted a change in language request to the state of Illinois legislature and is currently awaiting a response. Once approved by the legislature, changes to the grant language would be made by DCEO. In conjunction with a change in official language, the project timeline dictates that design phase engineering needs to begin, along with other weather-related tasks such as site survey and wetland delineation. These efforts will ultimately produce a set of plans that will be used to begin the bidding process. This compressed timeline is driven by the construction deadline of June 30th, 2021. We are looking possibly getting an extension on that. That is in the discussion as of right now. As requested by staff, the village has received a proposal from Christopher Burke Engineering Limited for the design phase of Swan Pond Path Reconstruction Project. The proposal in the amount of $38,750 includes survey, wetland delineation, wetland submittal through MWRD GC, IDNR floodway construction permit, MWRD watershed management permit submittal, field reconnaissance, and preparation of plan specifications and estimates. The above listed professional engineering services are required for the design and bidding phase of the project. And as well, engineering services are a bondable expenditure as part of the DCO grant up to 15%. Thank you.
Director, I'd ask for a motion and a second to approve the resolution authorizing the village manager to create a purchase order in the amount of $38,750 for Christopher B. Burke Engineering to provide professional engineering services for the Swan Pond Path Reconstruction Project.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Gallegos, second by
Second.
Ms. Collins. Comments or questions?
I had a question. So we are doing this, assuming that we're going to be able to get a modification on that permeable grant. If we don't get that, is the plan not to go forward with this project? And if it is, are we able to use the grant money from the other sources to fund this investigation? Or are those only allowed once the project is completed? So are those other grant funds available for investigating the project, or are they only allowed for the completion of the project?
So currently, Director Johnson can correct me if I'm wrong, the $350,000 has been the only amount that has been released out of the in addition to the $40,000 and the $50,000 that we're awarded. The $50,000 from the investment Cook, we are currently undergoing or getting an IGA in place between the village and the county. So moving forward, if the language change is not approved, we intend to do a design feature that would include a permeable ribbon down the center of the walkway. And hopefully that would suffice and meet the permeable requirements of the grant.
Okay.
So there would be a design change. I don't think the whole project would be a wash. We would look to do a design change and a feature change of the path itself.
Okay, that sounds good.
And I would add to that Representative Zaleski is pursuing this for us. The question, I actually think the question is not so much whether or not they're going to approve the change to a non-permeable as to the actual timing of the releasing of the funds. So that's kind of all up in the air, and Mr. Zaleski is looking into that for us.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Trustee Collins.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Gisa.
Aye.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is a resolution determining the estimated Village of Riverside real estate property tax levy for the year 2020. Director Johns.
Good evening. The estimated before you tonight is a resolution of, I'm sorry, something funny happened.
Yeah, you're sharing your screen with us somehow. Maybe go back to grid.
I apologize. I'm not quite
That's
sure
okay.
how to. Oh, stop sharing.
Top share.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Before you tonight is a resolution required for the estimated property tax levy for 2020. The estimated corporate and special purpose property taxes for the village is $5,257,395, which represents a 4.73% increase, and an estimated corporate and special purpose property tax levy for the library of $1,169,303, representing a 2.3% increase. We assume that the county will cut us off and reduce our levy to closer to the 2.3, but we wanted to make sure that we captured any new property growth. Sorry.
President Sells, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry. I'd ask for a motion and a second to adopt a resolution determining the estimated Village of Riverside real estate tax levy for year 2020. The final adoption is scheduled on December 3, 2020.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Gallegos.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pollock. Comments, questions? Please call the roll.
Trustee Collins.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Gisa.
Aye.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Motion carries. Sure will be nice when we're all together again, won't it? Don't have to remember to punch buttons. And lastly, we have an ordinance providing for the issuance of $226,000 general obligation limited tax bonds, Series 2020C, for the purpose of providing the revenue source for the payment of certain outstanding bonds of the village, providing for levy of a direct annual tax to pay the principal of and interest on said bonds, and authorizing the sale of said bonds to Hinsdale Bank and Trust Company. Director Johns.
Good evening. This is being done as a private placement to finish repaying our 2010A series bonds, which funded the Public Works facility. This will be the last debt issuance that we issue to repay this 2010 debt. We did a private placement with Wintrust Bank and received a 0.95% interest rate. Also with us tonight is financial advisor Mark Gerantina, if there's any other questions.
What is the period on these bonds?
2 years.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd ask for a motion and a second to adopt an ordinance providing for the issuance of $226,000 general obligation limited bonds, Series 2020C, for the purpose of providing the revenue source for the payment of certain outstanding bonds for the village, providing for the levy of a direct annual tax to pay the principal and interest on said bonds, and authorizing the sale of said bonds to Hinsdale Bank and Trust Company.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Gallegos.
Second.
Second by Ms. Collins. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Collins.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Gisa.
Aye.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, and I forget the financial advisor's name, but thank you for coming this evening and being available for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. No problem.
We'll move on now to considerations. We have none this evening. Is there any new business? Hearing none, we'll move on. Mr. Molina, do you need to run through your audio check before we move to adjournment?
Yes, I will do that, and also indicate that we will be having a closed session. So members of the public, it will be a separate meeting, although the motion to adjourn will be to adjourn into closed session. President Sells will give the reasons when he asks for that motion. No final action will be taken after the closed session. The public will not have access to the closed session meeting, but there will be no action afterward, and the adjournment of the closed session will be a final adjournment of this regular session as well for the evening. I would note that for the record. Having said that, let me go around and ask our elected officials whether they have heard and understood everything in this remote conducting of this regular meeting of the Riverside Village Board. Trustee Collins.
I have.
Trustee Evans.
Yes.
Trustee Gallegos.
Yes.
Trustee Hannan.
Yes.
Trustee Gisa.
Yes.
Trustee Pollock.
Yes.
President Sells.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I need, President Sells.
Thank you, Mr. Molina. We do have need for an executive session this evening for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. Discuss the purchase of real property for the use of the public body and for pending probable or imminent litigation. As Mr. Molina noted, we will not reconvene and no final action will be taken. With that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Gallegos. Second by
Second.
Pollock. Please call the roll.
Trustee Collins,
Aye.
Trustee Evans,
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos,
Aye.
Trustee Hannan,
Aye.
Trustee Gisa,
Aye.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Motion carries. The regular meeting is adjourned. Thank you and good night.